Have you ever stopped to think about how time slips through your fingers without you even noticing? It's curious, isn't it? You spend the day checking your phone, as if the next notification is going to solve life's greatest mysteries. Or maybe you find yourself caught up in trivial tasks, leaving what truly matters for when you have time. But let me tell you something. That time you think you have is slipping away while you get distracted by every little detail. In today's video, Stoic philosophy has something to say to you. Focus your energy on what really matters. Because let's be honest, wasting time on nonsense is a luxury you can't afford. Ready to change course and get rid of the 9 signs that are blowing up your life? Don't miss number 9. But before we start, if you find value in these videos, please subscribe and click the bell to stay updated. Don't miss any secrets, as one of them could be the change you're looking for in your life. Let's get started. 1. You use your phone even when there are no notifications. Have you ever noticed how, without any warning, your hand seems to have a mind of its own and automatically reaches for your phone, even when there's no notification in sight? It's as if your fingers have a secret contract with the device, committing to keeping it front and center no matter what's happening around you. And here you are, stuck in an endless cycle of unnecessary checks, as if the last notification is going to crack the code of life. Technology has done wonders for us, from facilitating communication to helping us track our diets and even count our steps, if it really matters how many steps we take. However, in this age of advancements, we've also fallen into a trap. Now we're so wrapped up in the maze of notifications, messages, and updates that we've forgotten something fundamental: our ability to be truly productive. When you check your phone for no apparent reason, it's like opening a box of surprises, except instead of finding something exciting, you're greeted with a bunch of distractions. Technology addiction isn't just an urban myth. It's a real problem that consumes our time in such a subtle way that we don't even notice it. It's like playing hide and seek with our own efficiency, hiding it behind a pile of alerts and emails that we don't even read. So how can you break this vicious cycle? First, accept that you're in the middle of a trap. The first step to solving any problem is admitting you have one. Look at your phone use as a series of episodes in a never-ending show and make a conscious effort to limit your binge watching. Instead of checking your phone every 15 minutes, set specific times of the day to do it. For example, you could decide to check your email only after completing an important task or during lunch. And don't worry, the world won't end if you don't reply to that message immediately. Secondly, adopt some productivity techniques that the Stoics might approve of. For example, use the time blocking rule, where you divide your day into blocks of time dedicated to specific tasks and only check your phone during planned breaks. This will allow you to focus on what really matters, like that project you've been putting off, and will help you avoid the constant temptations of your screen. Lastly, reflect on how you really want to spend your time. Time is like water. It slips through your fingers if you're not paying attention. Instead of letting your day dissolve into your phone's screen, invest your time in activities that enrich your life. Spend time on hobbies with friends and family and on yourself. After all, your days aren't infinite, and losing them to digital distractions is like pouring water into a bottomless pit. So the next time you feel tempted to check your phone for no reason, stop for a moment and think, is it really worth it? If the goal is just to fill a time void, maybe you should consider doing something more productive with that time. Perhaps it's time to make a pact with yourself to prioritize what truly matters and leave the distractions for those moments when there's really nothing better to do. As Brian Tracy aptly said, lost time is never found again, but the wisdom of having used it better stays with you forever. 2. You don't prioritize your tasks. How many times have you left those crucial tasks for the end of the day, thinking you'll have time later? And as expected, that time never comes. Instead, you find yourself caught in a whirlwind of emails, messages, and mini-tasks that, honestly, could have waited. If this sounds familiar, you might be stuck in a cycle of procrastination disguised as productivity. The problem here isn't that you don't want to do the important things, it's that you've gotten used to giving more weight to the trivial. Why does this happen? Maybe you think that if you complete the small tasks first, you'll have a clear mind to tackle what's really important. But in reality, you're just putting off the inevitable while distracting yourself with a game of deceit. This strategy is like trying to fill a glass with sand before adding water. In the end, there will never be enough space for what really matters. To get out of this trap, you first need to recognize that time is your most valuable resource. Imagine your day as an empty glass, and each task as a liquid you need to pour into it. If you start with what's urgent and essential, you'll have enough space to add the smaller tasks. But if you first fill up with trivial activities, the space for what truly matters shrinks to nothing. This is where Stoic philosophy comes in. The Stoics teach that we should focus our energy on what we can control and let go of what's beyond our reach. Applying this to your routine means you should concentrate on tasks that genuinely have a significant impact on your life or work, rather than wasting time on minor details. Make a list of your priorities and tackle the most important things first. Think of your to-do list like a restaurant menu. If you decide to eat dessert first, you'll miss out on the main courses, which are the ones that truly satisfy and nourish you. Instead of feeling full after dessert, you'll find yourself unsatisfied and hungry. Make sure you finish what's essential before distracting yourself with the small pleasures that, deep down, are just mere distractions. To implement this strategy, start by planning your day the night before. Spend a few minutes identifying the 3 most important tasks you need to complete the next day, and then tackle them with no excuses. Only after you finish the essentials, spend time on secondary tasks. Not only will you be more focused, but you'll also feel more accomplished at the end of the day. Leaving the important things for later is a surefire way to waste time and energy. By following a structure based on priorities and applying principles from Stoic philosophy, you'll be able to manage your time more effectively and enjoy a genuine sense of achievement. So the next time you're tempted to put off the crucial for the trivial, remember, the glass won't fill itself with sand. As Carl Jung said, the true wisdom lies in doing what truly matters first, leaving the trivial for later. 3. Your leisure time takes up most of your day. Have you ever looked at the clock while you're deep into a binge watch of the latest trending series and wondered if time has turned into a cruel joke? It's curious how our entertainment time, which theoretically should be the space to relax, ends up taking over most of the day. It's as if your life has decided to become a Netflix series and you're the protagonist who never questions whether the plot is really worth it. Let's be clear, we all need a dose of distraction to disconnect from daily responsibilities. After all, no one wants to be a robot who wakes up, works, and goes to sleep without a little fun. But here's the thing, that entertainment can turn into a subtle trap that steals your time without you realizing it. It's like that friend who always shows up at your parties uninvited but never leaves when it's time to go. Imagine your day as a garden. Each activity you choose is a plant you decide to sow. If you spend most of the day planting weeds, those endless social networks and series, what you end up harvesting is a neglected garden full of plants that add nothing positive. Instead of a flourishing garden of achievements and personal growth, you end up with a barren field of regret. So how can you avoid letting your time vanish into thin air? The answer lies in efficient organization and a more mindful approach. You can start by planning your day with intention. Set time blocks for your entertainment activities, but make sure they don't take over your entire day. Consider entertainment as an appetizer, not the main course of your life. To achieve this, you can use techniques like the Pomodoro method, which helps you divide time into intervals of work and rest. For example, spend 25 minutes on a productive task and then take a 5-minute break where you can enjoy your favorite series guilt-free. It's also helpful to set clear limits for your social media use. For instance, you could use apps that block access to certain sites after a set amount of time. Stoic philosophy, at its core, reminds us of the importance of controlling our actions and decisions. If you let yourself get carried away by limitless entertainment, you're handing over control of your time to something that doesn't need to play such a significant role in your life. The Stoics teach that true value lies in self-discipline and in focusing our energy on what really matters. Life isn't a series that can be paused or restarted. Every minute counts, and once it's gone, it doesn't come back. So instead of regretting what you could have done, start planting seeds in your garden that are truly worthwhile. Your future self will thank you. Keep this in mind. Time is the only resource you can never get back, so use it wisely, or you'll end up watching it disappear while you're staring at your screen. 4. You dwell on what's already happened. How about it? I'm sure at some point you found yourself in that endless spiral of what-ifs. Sometimes it seems we like to waste time reminiscing about the past as if that could change something. It's curious how we cling to those moments as if every time we revisit them, we had the chance to fix them just by giving them one more spin in our heads. But the truth is, there's nothing like a good dose of Stoic philosophy to make us see what we're really doing: nothing. Let's take a little trip through the art of not wasting time by lamenting. Imagine you're in a marathon, and instead of running toward the finish line, you decide to stop every few meters to check how you tied your shoes. Every minute you spend checking your laces takes you a little further from the finish line. That's exactly what you're doing when you dwell on the past. You're not moving forward, you're just stopping to look at the shoes you can no longer change. Lamenting over something that's already happened is like trying to go back in time with a broken remote control. There's no undo button in real life. Thinking about the mistakes you made or the opportunities you missed won't bring the past back or fix anything. It's like putting wings on a rock and expecting it to fly. So, what can you do instead of wallowing in self-pity? First, accept that the past is like a river that has flowed by. No matter how much you try to swim against the current, recognize what happened, learn the lesson, and, most importantly, move on. Stoic philosophy teaches us that the only way to handle the past is not to let it hold us back in the present. If you focus only on what you can control, it will be much easier to move forward. Here's a simple trick: set aside a specific time to reflect on the past. Yes, you read that right. You shouldn't spend the entire week lamenting, no. Dedicate a limited amount of time, for example, 10 minutes at the end of the day. During that time, analyze whatever you want about the past, but then let it go. Spend the rest of the day on what's to come. This way, not only do you limit the past's impact on your present, but you also give yourself the opportunity to focus on what really matters. Another useful technique is visualizing the future. Instead of getting stuck reviewing what went wrong, imagine how you want your life to unfold. Visualize success, the steps necessary to get there, and most importantly, act accordingly. It's not magic, it's simply how you redirect your energy towards something productive. Dwelling on the past is a sure way to waste time. While it's natural to reflect on what went wrong, you shouldn't let that reflection paralyze you. Learn, accept, and with Stoic wisdom in your arsenal, you can let go of the past and focus on what really matters: the present and the future you can build. Life isn't an endless loop of mistakes and regrets. It's a series of opportunities to improve and grow. So the next time you find yourself lamenting, remember that time doesn't come back and that your best investment is in the here and now. As Oscar Wilde said, the past is a ghost that haunts the present only if you let it. 5. You don't set boundaries with the people around you. Have you ever felt trapped in a kind of social maze, where every corner seems like an invitation to a pointless meeting or a purposeless call? Well, if you're reading this, chances are I'm talking to you. Social life is like a big party where everyone wants to be the life of the event, but curiously, very few seem to have a clear idea of when it's time to go home. So why do you keep staying when you really just want a good night's sleep? Let's be clear, I'm not telling you to become a hermit who rejects people as if they were an invading army. It's not about shutting the door on social interactions, but about setting a few boundaries that allow you to preserve your sanity and your time. Imagine your time as a precious resource, almost like the last pack of your favorite cookies in a store. Would you let just anyone devour it without your consent? Of course not. So why do you let your time slip away without your control? The first thing is to recognize that every social interaction has a cost. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying relationships are some kind of economic transaction, but it's true that every minute you spend in a trivial conversation or a needless meeting is a minute you could have invested in something that truly benefits or inspires you. Think of endless meetings like an all-you-can-eat fast food buffet. They fill your stomach, but they don't add much value to your life. So how can you set boundaries without turning into someone unpleasant? Here's a strategy that might work. Stoic philosophy teaches us that we can't control what happens around us, but we can control how we react to it. Instead of saying yes to everything out of politeness, learn to assess the real value of each interaction. Ask yourself if that call or meeting genuinely contributes to your well-being or if it's just a well-intentioned distraction. A practical example, if someone invites you to a meeting that you know will only serve for gossip or trivial talks, think about what you could do with that time. You could use it to work on a personal project, spend time with loved ones, or simply relax. If the answer is yes, don't be afraid to say no. No isn't a dirty word. It's a tool to preserve your time and peace of mind. Setting boundaries in social interactions isn't about being selfish. It's about being conscious of how you manage your time and energy. You don't have to be available for everyone and everything, and that's perfectly fine. At the end of the day, your well-being should be your priority, so you can actually inspire and help others in a more genuine way. As Brian Tracy says, wisdom lies in knowing when to say no to make room for what truly matters. 6. You use quick fixes. When we face a problem, we're often tempted by the idea of using a quick and temporary solution, like when you put a band-aid on a wound that really needs stitches. Sure, it's easier to say, "I'll fix it later," and move on with your life. But it turns out that later often never comes, and the problem not only remains but grows, like a balloon inflating with each passing minute. Imagine your life is a garden. You decide to ignore that small weed that pops up in the corner. It's no big deal, you think, but suddenly, you realize that the weed has become an invasive plant that's crushing your flowers. Sound familiar? This is exactly what happens when we opt for quick fixes. Procrastination is the fancy name for this technique of patching things up instead of fixing the problem at its root. Life, in its infinite wisdom, doesn't make allowances for our procrastination. In fact, it seems to enjoy showing us how ridiculous our strategy is as problems become more complex and harder to manage. Think of those times when you postponed an important task only to find yourself with a mountain of accumulated work that could have been easily managed if you had acted in time. Time is a fickle resource. It seems we slide through it without even realizing how much we've lost. And no, it's not magic. It's just the price of not addressing problems at the right time. How do you avoid falling into the quick fix trap? First, it's about being honest with yourself. If something needs attention, give it the priority it deserves. Instead of patching up the problem with a quick fix, why not tackle it in a more lasting way? This doesn't mean you have to do everything perfectly right away, but it does mean taking the necessary time to solve it properly. Stoic philosophy teaches us that facing adversity with determination and clarity is key to a more balanced life, with fewer postponed conflicts. It's also helpful to set a clear and practical plan for your problems. It's not about making a big effort all at once, but about taking consistent, well-thought-out steps toward a real solution. The famous phrase, "a problem well stated is a problem half solved," applies here. If you're dealing with someone's offense, for example, don't ignore it. Address the situation in a mature and direct manner. If you leave things for tomorrow, the problem will only grow and become more complicated, like a snowball turning into an avalanche. In short, time isn't a resource that can be easily recovered. So the next time you face a problem, remember that a quick fix is just a fancy way of ignoring reality. Facing your problems in a timely and effective manner isn't just healthier, it also allows you to live with less stress and more peace of mind. So instead of covering your problems with a band-aid and hoping they magically disappear, try tackling them with the same focus you would give an important challenge. The lasting solution will always be more satisfying than the temporary patch. Keep this in mind. If you decide to patch things up instead of fixing them, you're only postponing the chaos. 7. You don't focus on what you should. Have you noticed how much time slips through your fingers while you try to do a little bit of everything, but end up doing nothing really well? If your answer is a timid yes, welcome to the club of those who get distracted as easily as a kid in a candy store. But don't worry, here we're going to figure out why you're losing time without realizing it, and more importantly, how you can stop doing it. First, let's put things into perspective. Imagine you're in the middle of a relay race. The runner carrying the baton must focus on passing it to the next without stumbling, without losing rhythm, and most importantly, without getting distracted by the cheering crowd. But you, in your own daily race, tend to do the opposite. Stumble, look at the audience, and wonder if that burger that tempted you yesterday is still available. The bottom line is that you're running, but you're not moving forward. Now, what's keeping you going in circles? The first enemy to overcome is multitasking, that modern illusion sold as the ultimate productivity hack. Sure, doing many things at once seems to be the latest trend, but in reality, it's more like trying to play the piano while riding a bicycle. You might be able to do both, but you probably won't do either very well. Stoic philosophy teaches us that to reach our goals, we must focus on what's within our control and do it with dedication. This translates into prioritizing and doing one thing well before moving on to the next. Next, let's talk about distractions. Oh, the glorious distractions. They're like those little cookies they offer you while you wait in the lobby. They entertain you for a while, but they don't fill you up. Every notification on your phone, every open tab in your browser, every piece of gossip in the office is like a small dose of poison that dilutes your ability to concentrate. If you really want to do something well, you need to eliminate these distractions. This is where the 3 tasks technique comes in. It involves identifying 3 priority tasks for the day and dedicating yourself to them with all your energy and attention. If you're clear on what's most important, you can tackle each one individually, avoiding the temptation to jump from one to another. It's like having a map in the middle of the jungle. If you know where you're going, you're less likely to get lost along the way. To implement this technique, at the start of the day, write down your 3 main tasks. Then, dedicate a block of time to each one, working without interruptions until it's completed. You can use a simple tool like a timer to stay on track and avoid distractions. It's as if each task were a leg of a race. Focus on crossing the finish line before moving on to the next. Time is a resource that, unlike money, can't be recovered once it's gone. If you keep spreading yourself thin and falling into the trap of multitasking and distractions, you're giving your time away for nothing in return. Instead, focus on one thing at a time and do it well. Learn from the Stoics, who teach us that true wisdom lies in controlling our actions and thoughts. Remember, it's not that you don't have time, it's that you're not using the time you have in the most effective way. Stop being the king of distraction and become the master of concentration. As a wise Stoic proverb says, time is spent on distractions. It's invested in concentration. 8. You're constantly disorganized. If you've ever found yourself in a mountain of papers desperately searching for that vital document that must be somewhere, welcome to the club. Disorganization is that monster that steals your time without you realizing it and hides under the guise of a busy life. It's like being in the middle of a maze, without a map and with an hourglass running out quickly. Disorganization isn't just a small problem that can be solved in the blink of an eye. No, this is like a fire in a dry forest. It spreads, consumes everything in its path, and before you know it, you're caught in a whirlwind of chaos. You have trouble finding those important documents, those materials that should be at hand, and worst of all, you end up wasting valuable time. It's a bit like trying to find a needle in a haystack while the haystack is on fire. Imagine for a moment that you're on an epic quest. You need that crucial report you left somewhere around here, and you embark on an odyssey to find it. What should theoretically be a quick journey turns into an endless expedition because your papers are everywhere except where they should be. Disorganization is an enemy that makes you feel like time not only slips away but disappears into a black hole. So how do you fight this villain? The answer might be simpler than you think. Organization. No, I'm not telling you to become a Buddhist monk meditating in an orderly monastery, but to start taking small steps to turn your chaos into order. First, give everything a home. Every document, every material, should have its own place. It's like giving a name to your belongings. If you know where they live, it will be easier to find them. You can use folders, boxes, or any system that works for you. This doesn't mean your office has to look like an IKEA showroom. You just need a system that helps you find what you're looking for without having to do an archaeological dig. Secondly, dedicate time to organization. Don't wait until chaos becomes an out-of-control monster before you start organizing. Spend a few minutes each day putting things in their place. Think of it like feeding a pet. If you do it regularly, it won't go crazy or cause you problems. Lastly, reflect on Stoic philosophy, the idea that we can't control everything that happens, but we can control how we react to it. Disorganization is a perfect example of how our reaction can determine the impact. Instead of getting frustrated by the lack of order, use the lost time to create a system that works for you in the long term. Disorganization isn't just a minor inconvenience, it's a subtle way of wasting your time. But don't worry, you can fight this enemy with simple and effective measures. Give everything a home, dedicate time to maintaining order, and apply Stoic philosophy to stay calm while you do it. That way, chaos will turn into order, and your time will be your ally instead of your enemy. Remember, my friend, Organizing your surroundings is the first step to organizing your mind. 9. You're feeling frustrated. Have you ever found yourself in the middle of a conversation with yourself, on the verge of shouting, "I've tried everything"? If so, you're in good company. We've all gone through that overwhelming feeling that no matter how hard you try, you're not achieving anything. It's possible that all that frustration you're feeling is a sign that you're simply wasting your time. Let's explore this unsettling possibility with a touch of sarcasm to keep things interesting. First, let's talk about frustration itself. It's like an alarm that keeps going off, but instead of being in the kitchen, it's in your head. You feel trapped in a hamster wheel that spins endlessly, making a constant effort but making very little progress. This is where Stoic philosophy comes in. These ancient sages teach us that not everything that happens is under our control, but our response to it is. In other words, frustration might be a sign that you're putting your energy into things that, honestly, aren't worth it. Think of frustration as the index of a book that, instead of helping you find what you're looking for, leads you to a never-ending section of useless chapters. If you're constantly looking for the answer in the wrong places, how do you expect to find what you need? Maybe you're working on a project that doesn't excite you, or investing time in relationships that drain your energy. Instead of solving problems, you're just accumulating more of them. So, what can you do about it? First, take a pause and take stock of your time. Are you spending hours on activities that truly bring you closer to your goals? Or are you getting caught up in tasks that just seem to drain your energy without offering any return? It's like trying to fill a bucket with holes. Stoic philosophy suggests focusing your efforts on what you can control and, in some way, accepting what you can't change. Here's a simple trick to reorganize your life: the Pareto principle, or the 80-20 rule. Identify the 20% of your activities that provide 80% of your results. Ask yourself, which actions or decisions are truly driving your success? Maybe you'll realize that you're spending more time on tasks that don't contribute anything significant. By focusing on the most impactful activities, you could reduce your sense of frustration and start seeing more tangible results. But, of course, real change requires action and a healthy dose of honesty. There's no magic solution that will make frustration disappear overnight. However, being aware of how and where you're investing your time is a great first step. Recognizing that you might have been wasting time on unproductive activities will allow you to direct your energy toward what really matters. Frustration can be a message disguised as desperation. Instead of getting caught up in a cycle of self-recrimination, use this signal to reevaluate your approach. Life isn't an endless obstacle course. It's more like a path where you can choose the most efficient routes to reach your goals. So the next time you feel frustrated, remember that the solution might be as simple as changing your direction, not your destination. As Mario Alonso Puig says, frustration is a signal that you're wasting time on the wrong path, not a confirmation that you lack talent. If you've made it this far, write in the comments, "Time doesn't come back," so I know who the winners are who have reached the end of this valuable lesson. I'm eager to hear your success stories. So, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and comment so YouTube knows that this type of video helps people like you, and we can continue creating more videos like this in the future. I recommend the last 2 videos that will appear next. Thank you to each and every one of you for your time and support. See you on the next adventure.